Daniel Craig's journey to becoming James Bond is as intense and unexpected as the character he portrayed. His initial reluctance to become 007 shocked many, but the role ultimately redefined his career. So, why is he leaving it all behind now, after 15 years and 5 blockbuster films? To understand Craig's exit from Bond, we have to start at the very beginning, his early days in Chester, England. Daniel Craig was born on March 2, 1968 in Chester, England, into a family that was a curious mix of creativity and ruggedness. His mother, Carol Olivia, was an art teacher, a woman deeply rooted in the arts. His father, Timothy John Rotten Craig, was a midshipman in the Merchant Navy before transitioning into a less thrilling but more stable role as the landlord of 2 Cheshire pubs. Daniel's early years were shaped by the rough-and-tumble environment of those pubs, the Ring o' Bells in Frodsham, and the Boot Inn in Tarporley. Craig wasn't the only child. He had an older sister, Leah, and a younger half-brother, Harry, born years later in 1991. The family heritage was a blend of Welsh and distant French roots, featuring historical figures like Sir William Burnaby, 1st Baronet, and the French Huguenot minister Daniel Chamier. Even Craig's middle name, Rotten, was a nod to his great-great-grandmother, Grace Matilda Rotten. When Craig was just 4, his parents divorced. This split took him and Leah to the Wirral Peninsula, where they lived with their mother. Life changed quickly. Daniel attended Hoylake Primary School and later Frodsham School, before moving to Hilborough High School in West Kirby. His first taste of the stage came at just 6 years old in a school production of Oliver. It was a simple play, but for young Daniel, it was the start of something extraordinary. By 14, his mother had taken him to Liverpool's Everyman Theatre, a local hub for aspiring actors. It was there, amidst the grit and creativity of the Liverpool theatre scene, that Craig's passion turned into a career aspiration. By the time he was a teenager, Craig was performing in school productions of Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella, playing roles with a seriousness that set him apart from his peers. At 16, with determination and a desire for more, he joined the National Youth Theatre in London. He left school and moved to the city alone, working part-time in restaurants to support himself. His parents were in the audience for his stage debut as Agamemnon in Troilus and Cressida, a proud moment in his young career. Craig's training continued at the prestigious Guildhall School of Music and Drama, where he studied under Royal Shakespeare Company actor Colin McCormick. He graduated in 1991, ready to take on the professional world. His on-screen career began in 1992 with The Power of One, where he portrayed an Afrikaner. It wasn't a groundbreaking role, but it marked his entry into the film industry. Craig then worked his way through various TV roles, including appearances in Anglo-Saxon Attitudes, Covington Cross, and Boone. In 1993, he made a splash on stage, playing Joe in the Royal National Theatre's production of Angels in America. That same year, he appeared in popular TV shows like Zorro and the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Craig's versatility shone through his roles in British TV series such as Heartbeat, Between the Lines, and Sharp's Eagle. The mid-90s saw Craig taking on diverse roles that hinted at his emerging talent. In 1994, he starred in The Rover and Les Grandes Horizontales at the National Theatre Studio, where he met Rachel Weisz, who would become his second wife years later. Despite appearing in the Disney film A Kid in King Arthur's Court in 1995, which was critically panned, Craig was undeterred. His breakthrough came the following year with Our Friends in the North, a BBC drama that cast him as George Geordie Peacock, a troubled man navigating personal and social upheaval. Craig continued to embrace challenging roles throughout the late 1990s. He appeared in Obsession, a Franco-German drama about a love triangle, and took on a leading role in the play Hurly-Burly at the Old Vic. In 1998, he played 3 major roles: the independent drama Love and Rage, the biographical film Elizabeth, where he portrayed Jesuit priest John Ballard, and Love is the Devil, Study for a Portrait of Francis Bacon, where he played George Dyer, a thief and lover of the painter Francis Bacon. Craig's filmography in the early 2000s included a wide range of characters, each more complex than the last. He portrayed a mentally unstable man in some voices and appeared in Hotel Splendide, a dark comedy alongside Toni Collette. His role in Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, as Lara's love interest brought him mainstream attention, but Craig later admitted he took the part purely for the paycheck. The early 2000s saw Craig play serious, dramatic roles that earned him critical acclaim. He starred in Road to Perdition alongside Tom Hanks and Paul Newman, portraying Connor Rooney, an Irish mobster. This was a significant role, cementing his reputation as a leading actor. He continued to impress on stage, starring opposite Michael Gambon in A Number, where he portrayed a man cloned twice by his father. Craig's portrayal of Ted Hughes in Sylvia alongside Gwyneth Paltrow and his affair with an older woman in The Mother showcased his ability to handle intense, personal stories. Then came Layer Cake, where Craig played a suave cocaine supplier. The performance was praised for its sophistication and charisma, establishing him as a serious contender for future roles. His later roles in 2005 were diverse yet impactful, including The Jacket, Fateless, and Munich. In Munich, directed by Steven Spielberg, Craig portrayed a South African driver involved in a covert Israeli operation. His final TV role before Bond was Archangel, where he played an academic uncovering a Stalin-related secret. In 2005, the call came that would change Daniel Craig's life forever. Eon Productions, the creators of James Bond, wanted him for the iconic role, but Craig wasn't exactly thrilled. He hesitated. He knew Bond was a colossal franchise, a big machine, as he put it, one that made a lot of money but often boxed its actors into one role for life. He wasn't sure if he wanted to step into the tuxedo. During this uncertain period, Craig sought advice from friends and colleagues. Most of them told him, "There is life after Bond." Even though they were encouraging, Craig couldn't shake off the weight of the decision. Playing Bond wasn't just about becoming a superstar, it meant becoming Bond. Every detail, every step, every move would be scrutinized by die-hard fans and a global audience. Despite his doubts, the producers weren't ready to give up. There was a period of trying to woo him, co-producer Barbara Broccoli later revealed. They wanted something different from Bond, an actor who could bring depth, vulnerability, and grit to the character. They believed Craig was the one. In the end, it was this challenge that won Craig over. He aimed to bring something new to the legendary spy, an emotional depth that the previous films hadn't fully explored. Craig's casting, however, wasn't an instant hit with everyone. For years, Bond was portrayed as a tall, dark-haired, and suave gentleman. Craig was a stark contrast, blonde, shorter at 5'10", and more rugged. Some fans went so far as to launch online campaigns against him, even threatening to boycott the film. Still, Craig wasn't alone. 4 former Bonds, Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan, all showed support. Connery even called him fantastic, marvelous in the part. And surprisingly, George Lazenby, another former Bond, gave his nod of approval too. The pressure was immense, but Craig took it head-on. The first movie, Casino Royale, premiered to worldwide anticipation. It broke records, grossing nearly $600 million globally, and becoming the highest-grossing Bond film at that time. Craig was not only embraced as Bond, he owned the role. Critics praised his intense and brooding take on the character, calling him a game-changer for the franchise. It wasn't just the suave Bond anymore. Craig's Bond bled, felt pain, and even showed vulnerability. It was raw, rough, and real. Craig's voice and likeness were soon seen beyond just the big screen. He became Bond in video games too, including remakes of GoldenEye 007 and Bloodstone. His Bond wasn't just a film character, it was a global presence, one that extended into pop culture and even merchandise. But despite the immense success, Craig continued to explore other roles. In 2006, he appeared in 2 other films, taking on darker characters to remind audiences that he wasn't just about martinis and Aston Martins. In 2007, Craig starred in The Invasion, a sci-fi thriller with Nicole Kidman, but it didn't resonate with critics. He followed up with The Golden Compass, where he played the ambitious Lord Asriel. Meanwhile, he kept things fun with a cameo on the BBC's Red Nose Day, bringing a lighter side to his otherwise intense persona. But the Bond machine never stopped. In 2008, Quantum of Solace arrived, the highly anticipated sequel to Casino Royale. It took Bond to a darker, revenge-driven path, fitting Craig's vision of a grittier Bond. But he still found time to take on other projects like Flashbacks of a Fool, a drama that let him flex his acting muscles beyond the spy world. Craig wasn't all about action and intensity, though. In 2009, he shared the Broadway stage with Hugh Jackman in A Steady Rain. It was a story of two Chicago cops that was a hit among theatergoers. The audience got to see a different side of Craig, one that was raw, emotional, and stripped of the Bond facade. But even while he was making waves on stage, Bond was still in his blood. His third Bond film, Skyfall, faced production delays but ultimately hit the theaters in 2012. This film redefined Bond once again, breaking box office records and earning critical acclaim. Craig's Bond was now officially legendary. 2012 was a monumental year for Craig. It was the year of the London Olympics, and he even appeared in a special short film escorting none other than Queen Elizabeth II. It was a tongue-in-cheek moment that showed just how embedded Craig's Bond was in British culture. But his acting wasn't limited to just the silver screen. He returned to Broadway in Betrayal, performing alongside his wife, Rachel Weisz. Though reviews were mixed, it was a financial success, grossing $17.5 million. By 2015, Spectre had hit theaters, marking another big chapter in Craig's Bond saga. With 4 Bond films under his belt, Craig had now become synonymous with the role, grossing over $3.5 billion globally. The Bond character, once criticized for being too smooth and untouchable, was now seen as layered, bruised, and complicated, much like Craig's own acting journey. Craig's versatility shone again in 2016, playing Iago in a modern production of Othello. His portrayal was chilling, showing yet another facet of his acting depth. And when the sci-fi heist film Logan Lucky rolled around in 2017, audiences saw him in a completely different light, a comedic criminal with a bleach-blonde hairdo. But even then, Bond wasn't far behind. In 2019, he delivered a standout performance as Detective Benoit Blanc in Knives Out, proving he could balance drama, action, and sharp comedy with ease. By 2021, No Time to Die was finally released after delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was Craig's swan song as Bond, bringing closure to his 15-year journey in the franchise. This wasn't just any goodbye, it was a chance to give Bond a send-off that felt personal and complete. Just days before the film's U.S. release, Craig received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, an honor not lost on him, as it was situated at 7007 Hollywood Boulevard, a nod to Bond's code number. Daniel Craig's decision to leave James Bond behind wasn't just about ending an era. It was about personal evolution. After playing the character for 15 years across 5 films, Craig felt he had given Bond everything he could. While the role had brought him immense fame and opportunities, it had also become all-consuming, leaving him little room for anything else. He's always been transparent about this. Bond is a massive commitment that demands focus and energy. To Craig, it was more than just portraying a suave spy. It was about carrying the weight of an iconic legacy. Initially, taking on Bond felt surreal for Craig, but it wasn't all glamorous. Behind the slick tuxedos, fast cars, and intense action sequences, there were real challenges. The physical demands alone were enormous. Craig trained hard, often 7 days a week, to match the role's action-packed requirements. It wasn't just the stunts that were grueling. The psychological toll was equally heavy. He wasn't just playing Bond, he became Bond. And while audiences marveled at his gritty and raw portrayal, Craig found himself increasingly boxed in. Throughout his Bond years, he struggled to take on other projects. Acting was his passion, but Bond's demands were relentless. He felt he couldn't switch off the role and lacked the headspace for other characters. This was frustrating for someone who had built a career on versatility. Yet, despite these limitations, Craig never lost his love for acting. In interviews, he often speaks about wanting to do roles that genuinely move him, roles that let him explore new depths and narratives. Bond, however, demanded too much focus for him to pursue other creative avenues. The decision to leave wasn't sudden, it was something Craig thought about over the years. During the filming of Spectre, he even hinted at being done with the role, feeling exhausted by the entire process. While he continued for No Time to Die, it was always intended to be his last. This wasn't just about wanting a fresh start, it was about reclaiming control of his career and personal life. Craig's time as Bond wasn't without its highs. He appreciates the people he worked with, from the cast to the crew, and even considers some of them lifelong friends. He often describes the Bond set as a family, one filled with shared struggles and triumphs. However, as much as Craig loved the camaraderie, the role also felt isolating. Despite the glitz and glamour, there were moments when he felt alone within the enormity of the Bond machine. The actor acknowledges the mixed emotions that came with saying goodbye. The final scene of No Time to Die was filmed at Pinewood Studios on a rainy night, and the atmosphere felt heavy. Craig, dressed in his trademark tuxedo, knew this was his last portrayal of the iconic spy. It was an emotional moment, not just for him but for everyone on set. As the shoot wrapped, hundreds of crew members stayed late to give him a proper farewell. Craig delivered a heartfelt speech, looking out at faces that had been part of his journey for 15 years. He admitted that seeing everyone, old friends and colleagues, made the goodbye harder. But Craig is clear about one thing. Leaving Bond wasn't just a career decision, it was also a personal one. Bond's persona had overshadowed his own identity for a long time, and he was eager to break free from that mold. He wanted to take on roles that would allow him to rediscover the essence of acting, the thrill of stepping into new shoes, without the weight of a global phenomenon resting on his shoulders. In recent years, Craig has explored other roles that offer more creative freedom. Projects like Knives Out have allowed him to dive into characters that are wildly different from Bond. Playing Benoit Blanc, a quirky detective, was refreshing. It wasn't just lighter material. It was an opportunity to do something different, something unexpected. Craig enjoyed the fun, improvisational atmosphere on set, which stood in contrast to the structured, high-pressure environment of Bond films. His upcoming projects reflect this new direction. Craig is now focused on roles that challenge him in ways Bond never could. His next film, Queer, sees him portraying William Lee, a complex character inspired by Beat Generation writer William S. Burroughs. This is a return to Craig's roots, playing characters with layers, flaws, and a sense of raw humanity. It's not about the box office or global fame, it's about storytelling that moves him. Craig's departure from Bond has allowed him to be more selective, something he deeply values. He no longer feels the pressure to maintain a certain image or fulfill franchise expectations. Instead, he's guided by his heart, seeking roles that resonate with him personally. While he doesn't have a concrete game plan, he knows one thing: he's ready to explore the depths of acting without limits. Leaving Bond isn't easy for anyone, and Craig's exit was no exception. Former Bond actor Pierce Brosnan once advised him to let go fast and move forward. Craig has taken this advice to heart. He's proud of what he achieved as Bond and the legacy he leaves behind, but he's also excited about what lies ahead. He no longer carries the burden of being Bond and can now embrace the next phase of his career with open arms. While he will always be remembered as one of the most iconic Bonds in history, Craig is determined to be more than just 007. He is an actor in search of stories that matter to him, stories that allow him to connect with the audience on a different level. He's ready for the next adventure, one that doesn't involve martinis, Aston Martins, or MI6. It's a journey into new territories, with roles that challenge him in unexpected ways. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Daniel Craig's journey with Bond and beyond, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications to stay updated with more engaging stories from the world of cinema. Thank you for watching.